I never planned to tell my son about the money, but on Christmas night, my briefcase fell open and he saw the number $12.5 million. The room went silent. His wife didn't congratulate me. She looked at me like something that needed to be divided. Within hours, they stopped asking and started planning. I didn't argue. I didn't warn them. I listened, and what I heard changed how I saw my own family forever. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, and how every assumption they made about me backfired, do me a small favor. Take a second to support this channel, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. It helps more than you think. Now let me take you back to the night everything changed. My name is Thomas Hale, and for most of my life, I believe being generous made me a good father. We were finishing Christmas dinner in my home in Redwood Falls, Oregon, a quiet town where everyone knows your name and your business travels faster than the river after winter snowmelt. The dining room was warm, glowing with amber light from the chandelier I'd installed myself years ago. The table was cluttered with plates, half-empty wine glasses, and the remains of a turkey I'd spent all afternoon preparing. Across from me sat my son, Daniel Hale, 35 years old, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes that used to look at me with respect. Beside him was his wife, Marissa, perfectly styled, perfectly composed, her smile fixed in place like a photograph. Daniel stood and began stacking plates. "Dinner was great, Dad," he said. "You always do too much." I smiled faintly. Force of habit. That's when his elbow clipped the side table. The leather briefcase fell hard against the hardwood floor, snapping open. Paper spilled out in every direction. Legal documents, stamped envelopes, a letterhead bold enough to be read from across the room. I froze. Daniel froze harder. He stared at the top page like it had just bitten him. "Dad," his voice cracked. "Is this real?" I was already kneeling, gathering the papers, my heart pounding faster than it should have at my age. Marissa leaned forward slowly, her fork resting neatly on her plate. "What is it, honey?" she asked, sweet and curious. Daniel swallowed. "It says $12.5 million. The room went silent. The Christmas tree lights flickered in the reflection of the documents as I pulled them back into my hands. I stood, folded the papers carefully, and held them against my chest. "It's not something that concerns you," I said evenly. "Your uncle?" Marissa asked, tilting her head. "The one who passed last year?" I nodded. "Your great-uncle Samuel. He sold his logistics firm before he died. No spouse. No children. I was next of kin." Daniel dropped into his chair like his legs had given out. $12.5 million, he whispered. "Dad, why didn't you tell us?" Marissa's eyes never left the folder. Not for a second. "That's incredible," she said softly. "What a blessing." The word blessing sat wrong in the air. Daniel rubbed his palms against his jeans. "I mean, you don't really need all that, do you?" I looked at him slowly. "What do you mean by that?" Marissa leaned in before he could answer. "We're just thinking about the kids," she said, gesturing vaguely toward framed photos of Lucas and Nina on the mantel. "College, stability, their future. You've already lived your life, Thomas." There it was. I placed the folder on the table, flat between us. "I haven't decided what I'm doing with the money," I said, "and this isn't a conversation for tonight." Marissa laughed lightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Money becomes everyone's business when family is involved. Daniel nodded. "We've been struggling, Dad. Meanwhile, you've been comfortable." I stood up slowly. "You're staying the night," I said. "We'll talk another time." Marissa smiled again, sharp this time. "Of course. We have a lot to discuss." I went upstairs with a folder under my arm, my chest tight with a feeling I couldn't yet name. The house creaked, as it always did at night. Old beams settling. Familiar sounds that had once meant safety. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. At 12:11 a.m., I heard footsteps above me, then voices. At first, I told myself not to listen. Then I heard Marissa clearly. "That old man doesn't deserve that kind of money." My breath caught. "He's wasted his whole life being ordinary," she continued. "Living small, working boring jobs. And now, he just gets handed everything." "Keep your voice down," Daniel whispered. I'm right, she said. We could actually do something with that money. We deserve it more than he does. I sat up in bed, my hands clenched into fists. What if he says no? Daniel asked. There was a pause. Then Marissa said something that changed how I saw my son forever. Then we make it so he doesn't get to decide. My heart hammered. He's old, Daniel. Lonely. Vulnerable. People like him can be managed. And if that doesn't work... She lowered her voice. There are legal ways. What kind of legal ways? Competency. Influence. Courts take those claims seriously. I stare at the wall, my vision blurring, not from fear, but from clarity. This wasn't greed. This was strategy. By the time their voices faded, something inside me had gone quiet. The man who had spent decades sacrificing, paying tuition, covering emergencies, draining his own future so his son could build one, was gone. Morning came cold and gray. I made coffee and waited. They came downstairs smiling, and they had no idea the man they planned to manipulate no longer existed. They came into the kitchen smiling like nothing had happened. Marissa moved first, heels clicking softly against the tile, already in control of the space. She poured herself coffee without asking, added cream from my fridge, and sat at the table like she belonged there. Daniel followed, quieter, eyes avoiding mine, shoulders slightly hunched. He looked like a man caught between loyalty and fear, and losing both. Morning, Dad. Daniel said, You're up early. I didn't sleep, I replied. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Marissa glanced at him, then back at me. Big news will do that to a person, she said lightly. Money can be overwhelming. So can entitlement, I said. She blinked once. Just once. Then the smile returned. We were talking last night, she began, folding her hands neatly on the table, about how best to handle the situation as a family. I took my mug and sat across from them. I heard. Daniel stiffened. You heard what? Enough. The silence stretched. Marissa's fingers tightened together. Well, she said slowly, then you know we're only concerned about what's fair. I leaned back. Fair to whom? To everyone, she replied quickly. You, us, the kids. This kind of money shouldn't sit unused. It should be working, growing, helping the people who still have lives ahead of them. Daniel cleared his throat. Dad, Marissa's just saying... I know exactly what she's saying. I cut in. She's saying I'm too old to matter. That's not what I meant. Marissa snapped, the mask slipping. Then she caught herself. I just mean you've already lived your life, Thomas. I smiled, not warmly. Then you should be grateful I'm still paying for yours. Daniel flinched. Marissa leaned forward. Let's be realistic. You don't need $12 million. You live alone. You don't travel. You don't spend. What are you going to do with it? Let it sit until you die? That's none of your concern. It is when it affects our children. She shot back. College is expensive. Life is expensive. And frankly, it's selfish to hoard resources when your family is struggling. I set my mug down carefully. You want to talk about selfish? I said, let's talk numbers. Daniel looked up, surprised. Your tuition, I continued. For years. No loans. I paid. When you couldn't find work after graduation, I covered your rent. When you wanted a house, I liquidated my retirement account for your down payment. When your car broke down. When the kids were born. When your credit cards maxed out. Marissa shifted in her chair. I've given you over $400,000 in 35 years, I said. And now you're telling me I'm selfish? Daniel's voice was small. Dad, we didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did, I replied. You just didn't expect me to hear you. Marissa's eyes hardened. Eavesdropping isn't exactly respectful. And plotting to strip someone of their rights is? Daniel's head snapped up. What are you talking about? I looked directly at Marissa. You suggested legal action. You suggested questioning my mental capacity. Her jaw tightened. That was just a discussion, she said. Hypothetical. You called it strategy, I replied. The room went cold. Daniel stood abruptly. "Marissa?" She turned to him, annoyed. "What?" Someone had to think ahead. "We can't rely on goodwill forever." I rose from my chair. "You're leaving today?" I said. Marissa laughed in disbelief. "You can't be serious." "I am. Pack your things." Daniel looked between us. "Dad, please." "No," I said firmly. "This conversation is over." Marissa stood too, anger blazing openly now. "You think you can just throw us out? After everything we've done for you?" I stared at her. "Name one thing." She opened her mouth, closed it. "You have 10 minutes, I said, walking to the front door and opening it. After that, I called the sheriff. Daniel's face went pale. "Dad, don't do this." "I already have," I replied. They left in a storm of slammed drawers and muttered curses. Marissa's voice was sharp, venomous. Daniel said nothing at all. As their car tore out my driveway, she leaned out the window and shouted, "This isn't over." She was right. 3 weeks passed in silence. No calls, no apologies. Then the envelope arrived. The courier stood stiffly on my porch, clipboard in hand. "Thomas Hale?" "Yes." "Legal documents requiring your signature." The paper felt heavy in my hands. Inside was a petition filed by Daniel and Marissa Hale. A petition to have me declared mentally incompetent. I sat at my kitchen table reading words that felt unreal. Allegations of cognitive decline, irrational financial decisions, vulnerability to manipulation, requests for emergency asset control. They had frozen $500,000 of my accounts pending review. I didn't panic. I called Evelyn Whitmore, a senior attorney in Benton City, someone I consulted once years ago. "Come in immediately," she said after hearing 2 sentences. By that afternoon, the pieces were laid out on her desk. "This isn't just weak," Evelyn said, adjusting her glasses. "It's fraudulent." She pointed to the medical report. "This doctor isn't certified in geriatrics. She's a pediatrician. And these witness statements." She held them up. "Same handwriting." My jaw tightened. "Marissa." Evelyn nodded. "We'll dismantle this. But first, I want an independent evaluation." 2 hours later, I sat across from a neurologist completing cognitive tests. I finished every one with ease. The doctor smiled. "Mr. Hale, your results are exceptional. I'll testify to that under oath." Back in Evelyn's office, she leaned back, satisfied. "They just handed us leverage," she said. "We'll file for dismissal counterclaims and refer this to the district attorney." I nodded. "And I want to call in every loan." Evelyn's smile turned sharp. "How much?" $412,000, plus interest. She whistled softly. "This will hurt." "It should," I replied. As I left her office, my phone buzzed. Missed calls, messages, social media notifications. Marissa had posted a long, emotional story about elder neglect, about a cruel father-in-law hoarding wealth while children suffered. Photos, lies, tears. The comments poured in. I closed the app. She thought this was about sympathy. She didn't realize she'd just created evidence. And this time, I wasn't going to stay silent. By morning, the town had already decided who I was. I felt it before I saw it. The silence at the grocery store. The way conversation stopped mid-sentence when I reached the end of an aisle. The cashier who used to ask about my garden now avoided eye contact as she rang up my bread and coffee. Someone whispered my name, not kindly. Marissa's post had spread fast. She knew exactly how to write it. Not too detailed. Just emotional enough. Carefully cropped photos. Empty shelves taken from years ago. A picture of Lily coughing during a winter flu, framed as neglect. She never mentioned the vacations. The designer bags. The new SUV Daniel drove to work. Truth didn't travel as fast as outrage. By noon, I had messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. "How could you? Those poor kids." Money really changes people. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started documenting. Every post, every comment, every share, timestamps. screenshots, archive links. I created folders labeled by date and platform, the way I'd once organized engineering projects, methodical, unemotional, thorough. Marissa had always underestimated me. She thought age meant confusion. That quiet meant weakness. She was wrong. By evening, Evelyn called. She escalated. She said flatly, which is good for us. I assumed as much. The court dismissed their incompetency petition this afternoon, she continued, with prejudice. The judge wasn't subtle. I exhaled slowly. But, Evelyn added, their behavior online crosses into defamation. We're filing tomorrow. Do it. The next morning, I received another envelope. This one wasn't from the court. It was from Daniel. A handwritten letter. Crooked lines. Ink pressed too hard. Dad, Marissa says this has gone too far. I agree. We never wanted things to explode like this. Please call me. We can fix this. I don't want lawyers involved. I don't want the kids dragged into this. I'm still your son. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Being someone's father didn't mean allowing them to destroy me. That afternoon, Evelyn filed a civil suit. Defamation, fraud, attempted financial exploitation. The numbers were precise. The evidence airtight. By nightfall, Marissa's post disappeared. By morning, a new one appeared. This one was angrier. Powerful men always silence women, she wrote. Even their own family. But the comments were different now. Some people had started asking questions. Why had the house been renovated last year? Why did their kids attend private school? Why had Daniel bought a motorcycle during his unemployment? Cracks were forming. 2 days later, the community center held its monthly meeting. Marissa requested time to speak. So, did I. When I arrived, the room buzzed with tension. Folding chairs filled quickly. Faces I'd known for decades now looked uncertain. Curious. Some embarrassed. Marissa stood at the front, flanked by poster boards and printed photos. She wore pale blue, vulnerable, strategic. She spoke first. She cried on cue. She talked about struggle, about fear, about how money reveals who people really are. She never said my name directly. She didn't have to. When she finished, the room was quiet, heavy. Then the moderator looked at me. Mr. Hale? I stood. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I opened my folder. These are bank statements, I said. 35 years worth. Gasps rippled as pages were passed around. College tuition, rent payments, down payments, emergency transfers, monthly support. Marissa's smile faltered. These, I continued, connected my laptop to projector, are social media posts. Dated. The screen filled with images. Beach resorts. Designer shoes. Luxury dinners. Each timestamp appeared beneath the image. Here, I said calmly, is a post from March. Cabo vacation. Posted 3 days after they asked me for grocery money. A murmur moved through the room. Here's June. $300 shoes. Same week, they claimed they couldn't pay utilities. Marissa stood abruptly. This is manipulation. No, I replied. This is documentation. Someone in the back spoke. Marissa, you told me they were on the verge of foreclosure. Another voice followed. Didn't you just redo your kitchen? The room shifted. Not toward anger. Toward doubt. Marissa's voice cracked. You're all taking a side because he has money. No, an older woman said gently. We're taking a side because the math doesn't lie. Daniel hadn't spoken once. He stared at the floor. When the meeting ended, people approached me quietly. Apologies. Awkward nods. Regret. Marissa stormed out. 3 days later, Daniel lost his job. The construction firm cited reputational concerns. Clients didn't want controversy. That evening, my doorbell rang. Daniel stood alone. No Marissa. He looked smaller somehow. We're drowning, he said quietly. She's furious. The bills are piling up. The kids are scared. I stepped aside to let him in. We sat in silence. She says you planned this, he continued. That you set us up. I met his eyes. I plan to protect myself. He nodded slowly. She wants to fight. Sue, go public again. And what do you want? I asked. He swallowed. I want this to stop. I leaned forward. Then it ends today. He looked up. I'll withdraw the debt claim against you, I said, but not against her. Daniel's face tightened. She chose this path. I continued. You still have a choice. He closed his eyes. She won't forgive me. Then you'll finally know how I felt. I replied gently. He stayed silent for a long time. Then he nodded. I'll sign. The next morning, Marissa received a notice. The lawsuit stood. The debt collection proceeded. Her accounts were frozen pending investigation. She screamed at Daniel. She packed a bag. She left. Weeks passed. The town moved on. The whispers stopped. Daniel came by on Sundays, helped in the garden, listened more than he spoke. One afternoon, he said quietly, I didn't realize how much you gave up. I looked at the soil between my hands. Most people don't, until it's gone. Spring arrived slowly. Bulbs I'd planted began to break through the earth. Some things needed to be buried before they could grow. And Marissa, she learned that greed has a price. And sometimes, it's everything you thought you owned. Marissa didn't disappear quietly. She never did. The first sign came as a certified letter delivered to my mailbox on a gray Tuesday morning. The envelope thick and formal, stamped with a seal of firm I recognized immediately. Expensive, aggressive, the kind of firm that thrived on intimidation and spectacle. I opened at the kitchen table, the same place where I'd once signed checks without hesitation, trusting that love meant giving without limits. The letter accused me of financial coercion, emotional abuse, and intentional alienation of grandchildren. It demanded immediate mediation and threatened a civil suit for damages, pain, suffering, and long-term emotional distress caused by calculated financial manipulation. I read it twice. Then I placed it neatly on the table and poured myself another cup of coffee. When Evelyn read it later that morning, she laughed, once, sharp and incredulous. She's panicking, she said, and she hired the loudest people she could afford. Can they hurt me? They can try, Evelyn replied. But they're bleeding money and they know it. This letter is theater. That night, Daniel came over again. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hands rougher than usual. He sat down heavily at the table and stared at the letter without touching it. She showed up at my work site, he said quietly, screaming, blaming me, said I betrayed her. I didn't respond. She says you turned everyone against her, he continued, that you destroyed her reputation. I folded my hands. She did that herself. He nodded, though the movement was barely visible. She took the kids to her sister's place, he added. Wouldn't tell me where. That landed harder than anything else. When I asked last night, I closed my eyes briefly. She has no right, I said. She thinks she does, Daniel replied. She says she's protecting them. From what? He didn't answer. The next morning, Evelyn filed an emergency motion, temporary custody evaluation, welfare check, court order mediation with a licensed family assessor. Marissa responded within hours. Her counterstatement was vicious. She accused me of lifelong manipulation, claimed I had conditioned Daniel to depend on me, painted herself as a victim of patriarchal control and financial domination, alleged emotional instability on my part. Again, but this time she made a mistake. She submitted evidence, screenshots, messages, old emails. She thought they helped her. They didn't, because context matters, and timestamps don't lie. By the end of the week, the evaluator requested separate interviews. Mine was first. I sat in a quiet office across from a woman with calm eyes and a legal pad that never left her lap. She asked about my finances, my health, my relationship with Daniel, with the grandchildren. I answered honestly. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't soften anything. I told her about the midnight conversation I overheard, about the false petition, about the social media campaign, about the debt. I showed her the records. She listened. Then she asked, "Why didn't you confront her immediately?" I thought for a moment. "Because confrontation gives people time to lie better," I said. "Observation shows you who they really are." She nodded. Daniel's interview followed. He was less composed. He admitted his failures, his silence, his dependence. He admitted he had known, deep down, that Marissa was crossing lines, and that he'd let her. That mattered. Marissa's interview was last. She cried. She accused. She contradicted herself. And when pressed about the children's living conditions, she snapped. "They're fine," she said sharply. "They don't need him." The evaluator wrote something down and didn't look up again. 2 weeks later, the report arrived. It wasn't kind to Marissa. It didn't call her malicious. It called her unstable. It cited manipulative behavior, inconsistent narratives, and emotional volatility. It recommended supervised visitation until further review. Daniel was granted temporary primary custody. The children came home. Marissa exploded. She posted again. This time, fewer people shared it. Some commented cautiously. Others didn't comment at all. The silence hurt her more than outrage ever could. She tried one last move. A lawsuit, filed late, sloppy, poorly supported. Evelyn dismantled it in 48 hours. The judge dismissed it with prejudice and issued a warning regarding frivolous litigation. I didn't attend the hearing. I was in my garden, planting tomatoes. Daniel came home that afternoon with the kids. Lily ran to me first. She hugged my legs hard. "I missed you," she said. I swallowed. "I missed you too." Jason followed more slowly, shy, uncertain. Then he held up a crumpled drawing. It was my house. The garden. 3 figures standing together. "Daddy says you like tomatoes," he said. "I do," I replied. He smiled. That night, after they were asleep, Daniel sat across from me at the kitchen table. "I don't know how to fix what I broke," he said. "You already started." I replied, "By choosing truth when it costs you comfort." He nodded slowly. "She says she'll never forgive me," he added. "Forgiveness isn't a measure," I said. "Responsibility is." Outside, the night was quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after storms. Marissa didn't disappear, but she lost the one thing she thought she controlled completely. The story. And once you lose that, everything else follows. Marissa didn't accept the court's decision as final. She treated it like a challenge. At first, the resistance was subtle. Missed drop-off times. Last-minute excuses. Claims that the kids were too tired or too upset to transition back to Daniel's place. Each incident was documented. Each excuse recorded. She was building a pattern. Without realizing it, Daniel tried to stay calm. He wanted peace more than justice. That instinct to smooth things over, to avoid conflict, was the same instinct Marissa had relied on for years. But now it worked against him. "She keeps pushing," he told me one evening, his voice tired, like she wanted me to snap. "She wants leverage." I replied, "Emotion creates mistakes." The next escalation came through school. The principal called Daniel one morning, voice cautious, rehearsed. "There have been some concerns raised," she said, "about the children's home environment. Anonymous concerns." Daniel closed his eyes as he listened. The allegations were vague. Emotional neglect. Excessive influence from extended family. Confusing adult conversations. Anonymous but unmistakable. Within hours, a social worker requested a home visit. Evelyn was already involved before Daniel finished the call. "Let them come," she said. "We welcome transparency." The visit was thorough. The house was clean. The kids were healthy, calm, articulate. Their rooms were personalized. Their schedules structured. Their schoolwork complete. Lily talked openly about her routine. Jason showed off his books. Neither appeared fearful or withdrawn. When asked about me, Lily said simply, "Grandpa helps us with homework and grows vegetables." The social worker smiled. The report came back clean. Marissa's reaction was not. She showed up unannounced that Saturday afternoon, pounding on the door while the kids were in the backyard. Daniel opened it cautiously. "You poisoned them against me," she hissed, eyes wild. Lower your voice, Daniel said. I'm their mother, she snapped. You don't get to take them away. You took them first, he replied quietly. That stopped her for half a second. Then the rage came back, sharper. You think you've won, she said. You think you're safe. I stepped into the hallway then. She turned toward me, her expression shifting instantly, anger replaced with something colder. This is your fault, she said. No, I replied. This is a result. She laughed bitterly. You think money makes you powerful. I think accountability does, I said. Her eyes flicked past me toward the backyard. You won't always be there, she said. They'll grow up. So will the truth, I replied. She left without another word. 2 days later, the harassment began. Emails, texts, late-night voicemails that swung between pleading and threats. Evelyn instructed Daniel to stop responding entirely. Silence became our shield. That was when Marissa made her most dangerous move. She contacted the media. A local investigative blogger known for sensational family scandals published a teaser. Wealth, control, and a broken family. An exclusive interview. The article didn't name us at first, but the details were obvious. Daniel's phone rang nonstop. Co-workers whispered. Parents at the school avoided eye contact. Marissa was trying to rewrite the narrative again, this time publicly. Evelyn reacted immediately. Cease and desist letters. Defamation warnings. Evidence packages sent directly to the blogger's legal counsel. The blogger pushed back. Freedom of speech. Public interest. Anonymous sources. Then Evelyn sent the documents. Not summaries. Not explanations. Raw evidence. Financial records. Court filings. Custody evaluations. The dismissed lawsuit. The forged medical claims. The social media contradictions. The blogger went silent. The teaser disappeared within hours. The article never ran. Marissa posted again, furious now, accusing powerful lawyers of silencing her. No one shared it. The comment section was empty. That's when the real fallout began. Her friends stopped calling. Her sister asked her to move out. Her workplace placed her on administrative leave pending review of conduct issues. She called Daniel one night, voice cracked and frantic. They're all against me, she said. You did this. No, Daniel replied. You did. She sobbed, begged, blamed. Then she made an offer. I'll drop everything, she said. I'll stop. Just help me. Daniel looked at me across the table as he spoke. What kind of help? Money, she said. Just enough to get back on my feet. I shook my head slowly. Daniel closed his eyes. I can't, he said. Not like that. You're choosing him over me, she screamed. No, he replied. I'm choosing the kids. She hung up. The following weeks were quieter. Too quiet. Marissa withdrew completely. No posts. No calls. No appearances. That worried me more than her outbursts ever had. People who thrive on attention don't go silent unless they're regrouping. Evelyn agreed. She's planning something, she said. We just don't know what. The answer came in the form of a subpoena. Marissa had filed a new action, this time claiming coercion under duress. She alleged that Daniel had been manipulated into signing financial documents while emotionally compromised. It was creative and reckless because those documents were notarized, witnessed, signed months apart, and they weren't the only ones. During discovery, Evelyn uncovered something Marissa had forgotten, a recorded consultation. Years earlier, Marissa had sought legal advice, quietly, about transferring assets out of Daniel's name. The recording was damning. Her own voice. Calm. Calculating. Explicit. It's not illegal if he agrees, she said. He won't notice. The judge listened to it twice, then dismissed the case, then referred the matter to the district attorney for review. Marissa's attorney withdrew the next day. She was alone now. Daniel didn't celebrate. He looked exhausted. I don't recognize her anymore, he said one night. I do. I replied gently. This is who she is without an audience. The children adjusted faster than we expected. Routine helped. Honesty helped. They asked questions sometimes. Why doesn't mommy come over? Jason asked once. She needs time to work on herself, Daniel replied carefully. Lily watched us both. She gets mad a lot, she said quietly. I don't like when she yells. I nodded. Neither do I. Spring arrived. The garden flourished. Tomatoes ripened. Lettuce spread wide. Peas climbed their trellis. Life grew again. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived, handwritten. No return address. Inside was a single sentence. You think this is over? I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Daniel saw my expression. What is it? A reminder, I said, that some people don't stop when they lose. They stop when they're seen. He nodded. Outside, the kids laughed. And for the first time in months, that sound wasn't fragile. It was real. But I knew better than to believe the storm had passed. It had only changed direction. The letter stayed in the drawer for 3 days before I mentioned it to Evelyn. Not because I was afraid of it, but because I wanted to understand it. People like Marissa didn't write threats for effect alone. They wrote them to provoke a reaction, to regain control of the emotional temperature. Silence was the one response she couldn't manipulate. Evelyn read the note, expression flat. It's vague, she said, which means she's fishing, or bluffing, or both, I replied. Daniel didn't take it as calmly. She's unstable, he said, pacing the living room. What if she does something reckless? She already has, Evelyn said. That's why we prepare, not panic. Preparation became our routine. Every interaction documented. Cameras installed. Openly, legally. School pickup protocols tightened. Emergency contacts updated. Neighbors informed quietly, without drama. We didn't hide. We hardened. Weeks passed without incident. Long enough for Daniel to hope. Long enough for me to worry. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. Daniel's voice was tight, controlled in a way that meant he was holding something back. She filed another report, he said, this time with child services, alleging emotional abuse. Says you're indoctrinating the kids against her. I closed my eyes. Are they coming? They already did. Yesterday, while I was at work. My stomach dropped. What happened? They spoke to Lily alone. The air felt heavier suddenly. What did she say? Daniel swallowed. She told them the truth. That surprised me. Lily was quiet by nature, observant. She noticed things adults thought invisible. She said, Mommy lies a lot, Daniel continued. She said Mommy told her to say bad things about you, and that Mommy said if she didn't, she wouldn't be loved anymore. Silence stretched between us. That's serious, I said. Yes, Daniel replied. And it's on record now. Child Services closed the case within 48 hours. But they didn't just close it. They escalated. Marissa was ordered to attend a psychological evaluation before any future custody modification could be considered. She refused. Then she missed a scheduled supervised visit. Then another. Her attorney, new, less confident, filed a motion citing emotional distress. The court denied it. Daniel received full temporary custody. Pending final review, Marissa disappeared again. No posts, no messages, no calls. That silence wasn't empty. It was loaded. The first real sign came from an unexpected place. Lily's teacher pulled Daniel aside one afternoon. There's something you should know, she said gently. Your daughter has been drawing concerning things. Daniel brought the drawings home. He spread them out on the table. Crayon figures. A house. Stick people. In several of them, Marissa stood apart from the rest. Face scribbled over, mouth jagged, eyes dark. In one drawing, Lily had written a single sentence in shaky letters. Mommy says Grandpa stole us. Daniel's hands trembled. That night he couldn't sleep. Neither could I. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about damage. Permanent damage. Evelyn requested an emergency hearing. Marissa didn't appear. Her lawyer requested a continuance. The judge denied it. In her absence, the court issued a temporary restraining order. Marissa was prohibited from contacting the children directly until further notice. The order was served the next morning. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. Then breathing. Shallow. Ragged. I warned you, Marissa said. Her voice was different now. Flat. Stripped of pretense. This isn't how this ends, she continued. You don't get to erase me. You erase yourself, I replied calmly. A sharp laugh. Almost hysterical. You think you're protecting them, she said. You're turning them against their mother. No, I said. I'm protecting them from fear. You're afraid, she snapped, that they'll see you for what you are. I'm not the one hiding, I replied. She inhaled sharply. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. They won't always be with you. The line went dead. I recorded the call. Evelyn listened to it twice. Then once more. That's enough, she said quietly. We escalate. Private investigators were brought in, not to stalk, but to locate. Marissa had stopped answering calls, stopped showing up to work. Her sister reported that she'd moved out unexpectedly. No forwarding address. The investigator found her 2 days later. She was staying with a man Daniel didn't recognize. An old acquaintance. A history of financial instability. Minor criminal record. Nothing violent. But nothing stable either. Evelyn filed for an emergency modification. The judge reviewed the call recording. Reviewed the drawings. Reviewed the missed visits. The ruling came down swiftly. Marissa's visitation rights were suspended indefinitely pending compliance with court-ordered evaluation and treatment. Daniel didn't feel relief. He felt grief. I didn't want to come to this, he said one evening, sitting at the kitchen table. Neither did I replied. But wanting doesn't change reality. The children adapted. Kids always do. They learn new routines, new normals. They laugh more. Lily slept through the night again. Jason stopped wetting the bed. Small signs, but unmistakable. Spring turned into early summer. The garden was heavy with produce. Life slowly regained weight. Then the investigator called. There's something else, he said. You should know. I listened carefully. She's been telling people you're not really the children's grandfather. That you manipulated records. That the inheritance made you dangerous. I exhaled slowly. Anyone believing her? Less and less, he said. But she's escalating the story. How? She's claiming you coerced Daniel financially for years. That the money you gave him came with conditions. I laughed once, humorless. That would be easy to disprove. Yes, he agreed. But she's not thinking strategically anymore. That was the real danger. People who plan carefully can be countered. People who act from desperation cannot be predicted. 2 nights later, the security camera caught movement near the garden gate. A shadow, a pause, then retreat. Daniel reviewed the footage. It's her, he said. She didn't come in, I replied. She wanted to be seen. The police were notified. A patrol car drove by twice that night. Nothing else happened. For now. The next morning, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a photo. Old. Me. Daniel. Marissa. Taken years ago. On the back, written in black ink. You took everything. I didn't throw it away. I placed it in the same drawer as a letter. Evidence matters. Patterns matter. Evelyn requested a final hearing. Permanent custody. Termination of unsupervised visitation unless strict conditions were met. The court scheduled it for July. Marissa resurfaced a week before. This time, she complied. Psychological evaluation. Therapy intake. Substance screening. The reports were complicated. Emotional dysregulation. Narcissistic traits. Acute stress disorder. The evaluator recommended long-term treatment. Not punishment. Treatment. The judge read the reports carefully, then listened to testimony. Daniel spoke. Calm. Honest. Exhausted. I spoke. Briefly. Clearly. I didn't accuse. I didn't editorialize. I stated facts. Marissa spoke last. She cried. She apologized. Then blamed. Then cried again. The judge's voice was steady. This court's priority is the welfare of the children, she said. And at this time, that welfare requires stability. Marissa's visitation remained suspended. A path to restoration was outlined. Long, strict, conditional. She left the courtroom without looking back. Daniel sat down heavily beside me. "It's over," he whispered. "No," I replied gently. "It's defined." Outside, summer air pressed down warm and real. Lily held Daniel's hand. Jason ran ahead, chasing nothing at all. Life moved forward. Marissa faded into the background, not erased, but no longer central. And that mattered, because some people don't need to be destroyed to lose. They only need to lose access. And for the first time in a long time, the house felt like a place of safety again. Not because the danger was gone, but because it no longer ruled us. Safety has a strange way of revealing itself only after you've lived without it for too long. For weeks after the hearing, nothing happened, and that absence felt louder than any confrontation. No calls, no packages, no shadows at the gate. The cameras recorded squirrels, wind-blown branches, the occasional passing car. Normal things. Too normal. Daniel returned to work full-time. The children settled into summer routines, library days, swimming lessons, evenings spent barefoot in the yard until the sky darkened and fireflies flickered like sparks. Laughter came easier now, unforced, as if something tight inside them had finally loosened. But I didn't relax. People like Marissa didn't simply accept outcomes. They reframed them. In their minds, every boundary was injustice, every consequence a betrayal that demanded correction. That belief system didn't disappear because a judge signed a document. It went underground. The first crack came from Daniel's employer. His supervisor called him into the office one Friday afternoon, voice careful, rehearsed. "We receive an anonymous email," she said. It raised concerns about family instability, allegations about coercion, financial pressure, emotional manipulation. Daniel didn't blink. "Do they include evidence?" he asked. She hesitated. "No, just claims." "And why am I hearing about this?" "Because we're required to," she said gently. "But I want to be clear, nothing in your performance suggests any issue. This is procedural." He thanked her and left. He didn't call me until that evening. "She's trying to poison everything," he said quietly. "Yes," I replied. "That's her last remaining leverage." "And if it works?" "It won't," I said, "because lies decay when exposed to time." Still, we prepared. Evelyn drafted a cease and desist letter addressing defamation and workplace interference. It wasn't sent, not yet. Sometimes the threat of consequence was more effective than the consequence itself. 2 days later, the investigator called again. "She's burning bridges," he said. "Friends, former co-workers, even family. Everyone who doesn't reinforce her version of events becomes an enemy." "Does she have support?" "Less every day," he replied. "And that's accelerating things." I understood what he meant. Isolation didn't lead to reflection for people like Marissa. It led to escalation. The next incident came from the school. A substitute teacher flagged an unauthorized contact attempt. A woman had approached the playground fence during recess, calling Lily's name. Security intervened before anything happened. The description matched Marissa. The restraining order was clear. No contact. Evelyn filed an emergency violation report. The police located Marissa that night. She claimed it was a misunderstanding. Said she just wanted to wave. The officer wasn't convinced. The judge wasn't either. A warning was issued. One more violation and consequences would be immediate. That warning landed harder than any previous ruling. Because this time, Marissa didn't disappear. She changed tactics. Instead of attacking us directly, she turned inward, into narrative, into memory, into revision. She began writing. Long emails. Not to Daniel. Not to me. To extended family. Old friends. Anyone who would listen. Stories of sacrifice. Of abandonment. Of being replaced by money and control. Some ignored her. Some forwarded the messages to us, confused, concerned. One had called me late one night. "I don't know what to believe anymore," she said. That's the point, I replied calmly. Confusion feels safer than truth when truth hurts. But she sounds so broken. She is, I said, and broken people still have agency. Silence followed. Then a soft, I'm sorry. That was enough. Lily started asking questions. Not dramatic ones. Careful ones. Is Mommy sick? She asked one evening, watching me water the garden. Yes, I said after a moment, but not the kind of sick that gets better with medicine alone. Is it my fault? I set the hose down immediately. No, I said firmly. Never. She nodded, absorbing it slowly. Will she ever be okay? I hope so, I replied. But hoping doesn't mean waiting. She seemed satisfied with that. Children often were, when adults told them the truth without decoration. Jason processed things differently. He became protective. If someone raised their voice, even in play, he flinched. Daniel noticed it too. Therapy sessions increased. Progress came in small, measurable steps. Then came the voicemail. Left on my phone at 2:14 a.m. No caller ID. Marissa's voice. Not angry. Not crying. Calm. Almost gentle. You've won, she said softly. I hope it was worth it. I listened twice. Then a third time. This wasn't surrender. This was repositioning. Evelyn agreed. That tone, she said. That's someone trying to rewrite the ending. And if we don't let her, she'll try to write a new chapter, Evelyn replied. The next week, that chapter began. Marissa checked herself into a treatment facility. Voluntarily. The news came from her sister. Daniel read the message 3 times. I don't know how to feel, he admitted. You don't have to decide yet. I said, this isn't closure. It's process. Part of me wanted to believe it. Another part stayed alert. Treatment could be genuine. It could also be strategic. Time passed. Weeks. Updates trickled in through official channels. Compliance. Attendance. Progress notes. The court acknowledged the effort. Supervised visitation was discussed, but not granted. Not yet. The children were informed in neutral terms. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Jason shrugged. Their lives had already adapted. By late summer, something shifted. The tension, the constant low-grade vigilance, eased. Not vanished. Eased. We started planning again. Small things. A weekend trip. A birthday party. The future in modest, manageable pieces. Then, one evening, Daniel found something in the mail. A handwritten letter. Addressed to him. Not threatening. Not manipulative. Short, I am learning to see what I did without defending it. I don't expect forgiveness. I am trying to become someone who doesn't hurt the people she loves. I hope one day you'll let me show that, not tell it. Daniel stared at the page for a long time. I don't trust it, he said. That's okay, I replied. Trust isn't a prerequisite for boundaries. He folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. Evidence of effort, not proof. Months passed. Winter approached. The case moved slowly toward finalization. Permanent custody was granted. Supervised visitation remained conditional. Marissa stayed in treatment. No violations. No contact attempts. Stability, fragile but present. One evening, Daniel sat across from me at the kitchen table. I used to think standing up meant fighting, he said. Now I think it means holding steady. I smiled. That's usually how it feels when you stop reacting. The house was quiet. Not tense. Quiet. The good kind. Outside, the first frost settled on the garden beds, ending one season and preparing for another. Not everything had been repaired. Some things never would be, but the damage had stopped spreading. And sometimes, that was the real victory. Not punishment, not triumph, just containment, and the slow, patient rebuilding of trust where it still had room to grow. Spring arrived quietly, the way real change often does. Not with announcements or apologies or dramatic gestures. Just warmth creeping back into the mornings, light lasting longer in the evenings, and the garden pushing green shoots through soil that had looked dead for months. That was how recovery worked too. Not loudly, not cleanly, just persistently. Marissa remained in treatment. The updates became less frequent, which Evelyn explained was a good sign. No news usually means compliance, she said. Chaos announces itself. Daniel stopped checking his phone every few minutes. The habit faded slowly, replaced by something like confidence. Not optimism, not forgiveness, but a steadier footing in reality. The children changed in ways that were subtle but unmistakable. Lily stopped asking whether doors were locked at night. Jason slept through thunderstorms again. They laughed louder, fought over smaller things, forgot, sometimes, that there had ever been a time when adults whisper behind closed doors. That forgetting felt like a gift. One afternoon, while Daniel was at work, I took the children to the park. It was ordinary. Swings, sand, other parents on benches half watching, half scrolling. Then Lily froze. Her fingers tightened around mine. "Is that Mommy?" she whispered. My heart stuttered. But I didn't turn immediately. I scanned first. Across the park, near the far path, a woman stood alone. Sunglasses, baseball cap, neutral clothes. Watching, not approaching. Just there. The order forbade contact, not presence. The park was public. I crouched to Lily's level. "Do you feel scared?" I asked. She thought for a moment. "No," she said. "Just weird. Do you want to leave?" She shook her head. "I want to play." So we stayed. The woman never moved closer. After 20 minutes, she left. That night, Daniel reported the sighting, not as a violation, but as a record. The system noted it. No escalation. But something had shifted. Marissa was testing proximity, not boundaries. Emotional weather. Daniel felt it too. "She's circling," he said. "Yes," I replied. Not to attack. To see if the ground is still solid. A month later, the court allowed a supervised visitation evaluation, not the visit itself. An assessment. Lily and Jason would be observed separately. No physical meeting. Just conversation, drawings, responses to prompts. The children were told exactly what would happen. No surprises. No pressure. Lily was quiet afterward. Jason was angry. She cried, he said, and everyone acted like that mattered more than what she did. Daniel listened carefully. "It matters," he said, "but it doesn't erase anything." That answer seemed to settle him. The evaluation report was balanced, neutral, professional. Children show signs of attachment mixed with guardedness. Recommend continued supervision. No immediate reunification. Marissa accepted the recommendation without protest. That surprised everyone, including her own attorney. "She's different," he admitted to Evelyn, or very convincing. Time would tell. In the meantime, life resumed. Daniel started coaching Jason's team. Lily joined a book club. We planned a small trip for summer. Nothing extravagant. Just water and quiet and time together. One evening, as we packed old boxes in the garage, Daniel found something unexpected. A photo album. Old. Marissa's handwriting on the spine. He sat on the floor and opened it. Page after page of moments that hadn't all been lies. Birthdays. Beach days. School plays. Times when Marissa had been present. Engaged. Loving. "She wasn't always this way," he said quietly. "No," I replied, "but that doesn't mean this version didn't exist. I don't know how to hold both truths." "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to protect the present." He closed the album and put it back. Not destroyed. Not displayed. Stored. That felt right. Summer came. The trip happened. No incidents. No calls. No emergencies. When we returned, there was another letter. This one addressed to me. I almost didn't open it. But I did. It was careful. Measured. No blame. No justification. Just acknowledgement. "I know you think of me as a danger," she wrote. "I understand why. I am trying to become someone who doesn't need control to feel safe. I don't expect trust. I am working to deserve neutrality." Neutrality. The word lingered. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't entitlement. It was humility, or at least the language of it. I showed the letter to Evelyn. She read it once. Then again, this is the first time she hasn't asked for anything, she said. Yes, I replied. That's what makes it complicated. The next court review was calm. Marissa spoke briefly. No dramatics. No accusations. Just progress reports. The judge listened. Then ruled. Supervised visits could begin, short, infrequent, structured. Daniel closed his eyes when the decision was read. Not in relief. In acceptance. That night, he sat with the children. Explained what would happen. Lily nodded slowly. Jason frowned. Can we stop if it feels bad? He asked. Yes. Daniel said immediately. Always. That mattered. The first visit was scheduled 2 weeks later. A neutral room. 2 chairs. A table. A social worker present. Lily went first. 10 minutes. She came out quiet but not distressed. Jason refused. No pressure was applied. Marissa accepted that without comment. The report noted it. Compliance. Respect for boundaries. The second visit was similar. Small talk. Drawing. No tears. No promises. Just presence. I watched Daniel carefully through it all, waiting for the old reflexes to surface. They didn't. He didn't rush to interpret or excuse. He observed, measured, protected. That was growth, not just Marissa's. His. By autumn, something like a new equilibrium had formed. Not peace, but stability. And stability, I'd learned, was far more valuable. One evening, Daniel said something that surprised me. I don't hate her, he said. I just don't trust her. That's allowed, I replied, and I don't feel guilty about that anymore. I nodded. Guilt had been her strongest tether. Cutting it hadn't made him cruel. It had made him clear. As leaves turned and the year bent toward its end, I realized something quietly profound. This story wasn't about punishment, or victory, or even justice, in the way people like to imagine it. It was about containment, about refusing to let harm keep expanding, just because someone claimed pain, about choosing the future over the fantasy of repairing the past. Marissa hadn't been erased, but she no longer defined the narrative, and that, more than any ruling, was a line that could not be crossed again. The next chapter, whatever became, would be written slowly, with witnesses, with safeguards, and with people who finally understood that love without limits wasn't love at all. It was surrender. And surrender was something none of us were willing to offer ever again. Winter returned the way it always did. Quietly, without apology. The first frost came overnight, silvering the grass and sealing the garden beds where the last flowers had bloomed. I stood at the kitchen window that morning, coffee untouched, watching the breath rise from my mouth when I exhaled. Cold had a way of clarifying things. It stripped excess away, leaving only what could endure. That felt appropriate. The supervised visits continued through November. Brief, predictable, controlled. No escalations. No regressions. Marissa followed every rule. Too carefully. Sometimes, Evelyn noticed it too. She's performing stability, she said. Not faking it, just aware she's being measured. And is that bad? Daniel asked. No, Evelyn replied. It's necessary. Authenticity comes later, if at all. The children adjusted in their own ways. Lily treated the visits like dentist appointments. Something to endure. Something that ended. Jason refused again. Twice. Then agreed once. Then refused again. No pressure was applied. That consistency mattered more than participation. One afternoon, after a visit, Marissa asked the supervisor a question that made its way back to us. Do they hate me? She had asked quietly. The supervisor hadn't answered directly. Instead, she said, they are learning who feels safe. That distinction seemed to land. The next visit, Marissa didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She asked Lily about school. Listened. When time was up, she said, thank you for coming, and let go of the chair before the supervisor reminded her. Small things. But small things were how patterns broke. December approached. The season that had once detonated everything now crept back into our lives with caution. Daniel debated canceling holidays entirely. I didn't argue when he suggested it, but the children surprised us. I want lights, Lily said. Just not too many. Jason nodded. And no big dinners. So we adapted. A small tree, paper decorations, one string of lights. No guests, no performances. On Christmas Eve, Daniel sat at the table long after the children were asleep. I don't feel triumphant, he said. I wouldn't trust that if you did, I replied. He nodded. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. You did the necessary thing, I said. Those aren't always the same. He considered that. What if she really is changing? Then she'll continue doing so, I replied, whether you validate it or not. Silence settled between us. Not heavy, just honest. January brought the final court review. The judge was the same. The room quieter. The stakes clearer. Marissa spoke briefly. No theatrics. She acknowledged harm without dramatizing it. She didn't ask for reunification. She asked for continued structure. That surprised the court. And Daniel, the ruling reflected that restraint. Supervised visits would continue. Frequency increased slightly. No unsupervised contact. No modification without unanimous professional recommendation. It wasn't an ending, but it was a shape. Afterward, in the hallway, Marissa didn't approach Daniel. She didn't look at the children. She nodded once and left. Daniel exhaled slowly. I thought I'd feel something bigger, he admitted. You might later, I said, or you might not. That feels okay. It was. Time passed. Life filled the space that crisis had vacated. School projects, dentist appointments, missed buses, burned dinners, ordinary friction, ordinary repair. One evening, as Daniel helped Jason with homework, Jason looked up suddenly. Mom didn't lie today, he said. Daniel paused. What do you mean? She said she didn't know the answer, Jason replied. She usually pretends. Daniel nodded once. That's important. Jason returned to his paper. Nothing else needed saying. Spring arrived again, this time without ceremony. The bulbs Michael had planted the year before bloomed exactly when they were supposed to. Lily noticed first. They came back, she said. Yes, I replied, because the ground was ready. She seemed satisfied with that. The visits continued, sometimes awkward, sometimes neutral, sometimes almost normal, but never unchecked. And that was the point. One afternoon, Marissa asked the supervisor if she could bring a book to read aloud. The supervisor approved. Lily listened. Jason didn't. That was okay. Months later, Daniel received an email from Marissa. Short, measured, no emotional hooks. I'm applying for a job. Not near you. I wanted you to know in case schedule adjustments are needed later. Daniel forwarded it to Evelyn without comment. Evelyn replied with one line. This is appropriate. That word again. Appropriate. Not forgiven. Not restored. But acceptable. One evening, Daniel stood beside me on the porch as the sun dipped low. I don't hate her, he said again. I know, but I don't need to understand her anymore. That's freedom, I said. He smiled faintly. I used to think protecting my kids meant fixing everything. And now I think it means stopping what shouldn't continue. I nodded. That lesson had cost him dearly, but it had held. The final moment came quietly. No announcement, no confrontation, just a realization one evening, as Daniel watched Lily read aloud to Jason while dinner cooked. This house was no longer organized around fear. It didn't orbit someone else's volatility. It didn't brace for impact. It lived forward. Marissa remained part of the children's lives, but she was no longer the axis. And that was the difference between presence and power, between access and authority, between love and control. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. They end with clarity. And clarity, once earned, doesn't fade. It settles. It roots. And it protects what grows next. That was the ending. Not loud. Not cruel. Just final enough to last. Before you go, subscribe and drop a comment with where you're watching from. Every voice helps this story travel further. Thank you for watching.